Hello, today I'll show you how to make a Roblox obby in Scratch. As you can see, if I use the WASD keys and spacebar, I can move around and jump and go through the obby with nice walking animations. And if I fail to jump a jump, then I'll fall. And if I encounter kill bricks soon, then if I do, I will die. And as you can see, just like a Roblox obby, you can jump over the obstacles until you've reached the max level. So let's get started. First, delete the cat and paint a sprite. Name it player. Now, use the circle tool and make the fill a nice yellowish color. And create a circle. Now use the box tool, make the fill a nice bluish color, and create the torso, and make it go back. And now duplicate the torso, make the color the same as the head, and make it a good size. Then duplicate it and place it on the other side. Now select both of them and place them in the middle so that it's more symmetrical. And name this idle or just no move. Then in costumes, duplicate it, name this walk 1. And now this time, click this arm and change the size, and click this arm and change the size. Then duplicate this, make the fill a greenish, darkish greenish color, and then place it here, make it go back, and actually more here. Then duplicate this and place it here so that it creates the walking effect. Then duplicate idle and name it walk 2. Then duplicate walk 1, which should automatically name it to walk 3. And in walk 3, shift the legs opposite like this, and same with the arms. And it'll create a nice walking effect. Then duplicate walk 2, and you should have the full walking animation. This. Now, for the jump, duplicate walk 4, name it to jump, and then extend these arms to create the jumping effect like that. Now, for the hitbox, duplicate jump, name it hitbox, then delete these except for the torso, and make sure that it's in the center. And now, in here, when green flag is clicked, create a few new variables called Z for the sprite only, Z for the height, then spawn X for all sprites, player speed for all sprites, player or direction for all sprites, and then animate for this sprite only. And now set animate to 0, set spawn X to 0, set player dir to 0, set player speed to 3, and now also set Z to 0. And now go to 0, 0 and switch costume to idle and go to front layer. Now broadcast new message start, and when I receive start, the first thing to do is position the character, and now make a block called reset and run without screen refresh. And when I receive start, reset. And in here, first create two new variables called X for this sprite only and Y for this sprite only. And now set X and set Y to 0. Then create a new variable called scroll X for all sprites and scroll Y for all sprites. And for now, set scroll X and set scroll Y to 0. Then set Z position, or just set Z to 0. Now, after that, forever, go to 0, 0 and switch costume to hitbox. And now for the main collision, create another new variable called Z position for the sprite only, and in reset actually says Z position to 0. And now back in here, first for just the basic movement, change X by, and now key right arrow pressed subtracted by key left arrow pressed times player speed. Now duplicate this, change it to change Y by, and then up arrow pressed subtracted by down arrow pressed times player speed. And this works because if you press nothing, it will be 0. If you press the left, it will be -1. And if you press the right, it will be 1. And if you don't want to use the right and left arrows, you can do instead the WASD, which is D subtracted by A pressed and W subtracted by S pressed. Now set X to X times 0.5 and set Y to y times 0.5. And now, with this, to make the player turn in the right direction, we used operators, and now a tangent of x divided by y, and then that multiplied by, or actually instead of multiply, plus, so a tangent of x divided by y plus 180 times, and then we add in a greater than, y is greater than 0, or actually less than 0, like this. And we place it in here, and this will basically find the angle of what the player is moving. As you can see, it will find the angle if you use the keys. And now for more movement, create a new sprite called island, then use the box tool, make sure there's no outline, and make the fill any color you want. I'll make it a grayish bluish color. Like this. And in here, for now, when green flag is clicked, forever, and then go to scroll x times -1 and scroll y times -1. And back in player, for the scrolling to work, change scroll x by x and change scroll y by y. And now, as you can see, when you walk around, it feels like you're actually walking. Now, with this, now the jumping and walking animations. First, set size to X position, or actually Z position plus 100, because that's the default size. And then for the walking, switch costume to, and then join walk, and then the round animate, and then mod 3, because there's 4 frames and one of them, and then we plus 1. Now, place it in here, and now we add an if else, and now we test if the player's moving or not, and we check if the absolute value of x plus the absolute value of y, and absolute basically turns any negative number into its positive form. And with this, we check if it's less than 1 or less than 0.1, then switch costume to idle and set animate to 0. Else, change animate by absolute of x plus absolute of y divided by 2, and then times 0.1. Now, if you test it, as you can see, when you walk, you'll have a nice walking animation. And you can still do the nice spinny thing like in Roblox. Now, for the Y or the jumping, change Z position by Z. And for the jumping animation, if Z position is greater than 0.1, then switch costume to jump. And this basically overrides all of this. And now, for the command of jumping, going back up here, for the collision for the island, we place it up here. And now, if Z position is less than 0 and touching island, then change Z position by Z times -1, or actually, yeah, Z position, and set Z to 0. And now we check if key space pressed, then set Z to 12. And now if we check, press space, and make sure that under here change Z by -1. Now if we test, as you can see, when you press space, you have a nice and smooth jumping animation. And if you don't touch space, or don't touch the island, then you will fall. And in costumes, if you want the player to turn smaller, use the box tool, make sure there is no fill or outline, and create an invisible box. Then copy and pastel it to all of these. Now if you see, you will turn way smaller, like that. Now for dying by falling, we check if Z position is less than -50. And if so, reset. And now if we jump, as you can see, the player will reset back to here. And now, with this, we create the island. Now instead of just this, we keep this and delete that. And now in island, name this to L1 for level 1. Drag this to actually around to the edge here, like that. And then you can create your level like this. First, a few islands to jump on. And before level, for costume 1, name it to checkpoint. And in here, use the circle tool. Use the circle gradient, make the right a nice greenish or just green color, and here transparent to create this circle. And then for the spawn point, if you want, make the fill nothing, solid color nothing. Well, not for this, but make it solid color nothing, and make the outline a good size. Then make a circle like this, and now use the line tool to create a line, and then a line like that. And now group it, place it in the middle, press shift, and shift it like that. And if you want, use the reshape tool to fix any imperfections until you have this. And with this, duplicate it, rotate it 180 by pressing shift and rotate, then place it in the middle and place it there. Then select both of them and place them in the middle and group. Now duplicate this, press shift and rotate it like this, then select both of them, duplicate and rotate and press shift. And now you kind of have the Roblox spawn point logo like that. Now, in here, when green flag is clicked, hide. Then switch costume to 0, which we can just do nothing times nothing. And switching costume to 0, we'll switch it to the last costume, which we can then automatically find the maximum level. Now create a new variable called level for all sprites and max level for all sprites. Now set max level to, and then costume number subtracted by 1, since the checkpoint doesn't count as a level. And now make a block called create levels and run without screen refresh. And now in create levels, set level to 1 and create a new variable called x offset for this sprite only, and set x offset to 0. Now repeat by max level and switch costume to join and then L and then level. Then create a new variable called ID for the sprite only. Now set ID to L for level and create a clone of myself. Then set ID to level so that we know. And now we create the checkpoint by creating another clone of myself. And now if we touch the checkpoint, we can just set the current level to the ID so that we know which level we are on. And now change level by 1 and change x offset by 480, and that's basically from here to here. Now down here set level to 1 so that we start on level 1. And now when I start as a clone forever, and actually first show and then forever, and now we check the ID. If ID equals L, then go to and then scroll x times -1 and scroll y times -1 and go to back. Now down here set ghost to 50 and switch costume to checkpoint, and still go to X, but instead also for X plus and then X offset and then another plus -190, which should set it to about here. And now with this, if, and now we check the level. If level is greater than ID subtracted by 1, then set and then spawn X to X offset. And actually this is a if else instead of a else, and in the else set brightness to 100. Oh, and actually in here set brightness to 0, and then we have another if that just checks if level is equal to ID, and then we set spawn X to X offset. Now to actually set it, if touching player and we check if level is greater than ID, and then we set max level, or actually set level to ID. And now for it to actually spawn in the right position, back in player, in scroll X, we do set scroll X to spawn X plus -190. And now, if we test again, as you can see, we spawn directly on the spawn point. And now, if you want, change it so that it's around the middle of the spawn point. Now, for kill bricks, so instead, duplicate it, it'll automatically change the level name, and you can create as much levels as you want. But now for the kill brick, we make a level and make the fill bright red, like this. And add jumps like this. And move them in a good position. Now with this, in player, in the if Z position is less than 0 and touching island, we check if touching color and in the same bright red, color 100, saturation 100, and brightness 100. And if so, we'll start the oof animation. And with this, create a new block called oof and run without screen refresh. And then place an oof and stop this script. And now in here, in costumes, duplicate walk 1 and place it down there. Then duplicate it 3 more times till you have 4 of these. Now zoom in and name this one head and delete the rest of the body. Then in here, name this torso and delete everything but the torso. Then in here, name this arm, delete everything but one arm and keep it in that position. And lastly, leg, delete everything but that one leg. Now, back here, first switch costume to leg, then repeat 2 times, create a clone of myself, and turn 180 like this. So then you have 2 legs. Then the arms, switch costume to arms and do the same. Then switch costume to torso, create a clone of myself, and switch costume to head and create a clone of myself. And then hide. And in reset, add in show. And if you want, you can actually set Z position to 100. So that every time it resets, the player falls back. Now, with this, as it spawns, when I start as a clone, we set X and we set Y to x times, and then pick random 0 to 2.0 and the 0.0 so that we have decimals like that. And same with set y to y times pick random 0 to 2.0. And now, so that when you walk into one of these, then the parts will fly in the direction that you walk. Now, repeat 25 times. And now we kind of simulate the z as well. Change z by -1. Set size to to z position plus 100. And for change x by x, and change y by y. And then change z position by z. And turn by x plus y. And set x to x times 0.9 and set y to y times 0.1 or 0.9 and 0.9. And now duplicate this, remove the stuff at the bottom and here, and keep this. And now at the very bottom, once the repeat ends, so only one of them triggers the command, if costume name equals head, and make sure it's spelt the same as the costume. If costume name equals head, then broadcast start and delete this clone. And now one problem that will happen is that there's an overlap. And to fix this, make sure that in here it is scroll x times -1 plus x offset. In costumes, use the box tool, make sure there's no outline and no fill. Then drag a rectangle like this, and for easier, add a fill for now. Then make it longer like this, and make it have no fill. And then copy and pastel it into the level 2 as well. And in checkpoint, use the box tool, make sure there's no fill or outline, and make sure that this is actually ID is greater than level. And one last thing, there is a glitch where if you do it fast enough, as you can see, you can fall but then unfall, and you're just smaller and you can't jump, which is a pretty bad glitch. And to fix it, we add collisions if it's fallen too much, or if the player's fallen too much. And with this, in the change scroll X, we add in a if, and now if Z position is less than -3, then we switch costume 2 hitbox, change Z position by -1, and if touching island, then in here change scroll X by X times -1, and then change the actual X, or change X by X times -1, and then lastly set X to 0. And now duplicate this and do the same for scroll Y, but instead change it to change scroll Y by Y times -1, change Y by Y times -1, and set Y to 0, and reconnect these. And now if you try to do it really fast, instead it's hard to do, and actually not change Z, but actually change Z position so that the player doesn't get stuck and still falls. So now if you try to perform the glitch, as you can see, it will not work. Or if you try to walk to perform the glitch, it will not work. And now if you test it, as you can see, you can walk, jump, and when you click, or not click but touch the checkpoint, it will check. And if you jump over them, they're fine, but if you touch, then you will reset in a cool Robloxy way. And now you have a nice Roblox Obby in Scratch. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day.